All right, everybody, welcome in. I'm just sitting here. I'm just sitting there. I'm not really sure which one we're going with at this point, but back for week two. In an interesting weekend, we had a horse tournament that I give him a good job, good effort. We'll talk about that just in a little bit. The NFL draft is just a week away. Also, Bud Light coming up with a creative way to practice social distancing. My guest today is Michael Connelly, author Michael Connelly, best known for the top 10 blog that he has. We'll bring him in just a little bit. We go way back. We'll tell our story as well. And I watched a couple of good movies over the weekend. So we'll do a lot of sports today. But again, you can feel free to chat in as well, whether it's on Facebook Live or on Twitter and Periscope. And also, we might have a giveaway as well for a lucky listener today. So again, I'm Joe Murray, sitting here today. You can tweet me at Joey Murray, and of course, right on you'll see a little chat button for comments. You can comment them, and we can put them right up. And any questions you have for myself or Michael Connelly, we'll put you right through. But let's bring in Michael Connelly, author Michael Connelly. We go way back, Mike.
Too far, Joe.
Too far. I know, and I met you as a probably a 16-year-old kid in 1996 or 7. You were actually my baseball coach in high school. I didn't play freshman baseball because I wanted to continue to play with my friends in Hyde Park, which I'm glad I did that. But at the same time, I'm pissed because I probably could have learned how to hit a curveball a little bit earlier. You know, like I was just like my biggest influence was Mo Vaughn growing up, right? So there was no way to get over that uppercut swing. Like that was it. It was the Mojo way or no way. We tried, but yeah, once you got to high school, man, people start throwing curveballs, sliders, and you're like, what's this thing, man? So that's my only regret when it comes to playing baseball is that if I got that extra year, maybe I could have caught up a little bit faster to the change of the game.
Well, on the bright side, Joe, if you did turn into Mo Vaughn, that puts you on Route 95, flipping cars. So not hitting the curveball. Look at you now. You got the podcast going. You're international. It worked out perfect for you. You didn't have to listen to me swear an extra year.
That is true. And again, so you know, I want to know a little bit about your story as well. I know you got a couple of books. You got a recent book as well, which I actually checked out over the weekend, and I love the top 10 blog. It's something you did for years with the Boston Herald. Something called Trifecta Sports. I don't know what that is, but you can plug that. Feel free to do that as well. There's a nice little rundown of all the stuff that you have here, and we'll do our own top 10 blog today. We will do that, and it's based off some of the things you've already done. I just kind of wanted to go back and forth with you on that, because there were some interesting things, but we're in a weird time here, Mike. You know, this quarantine. That's why I started this podcast. I'm in my basement and I'm like, all right, what else can I do? Like I gotta start doing something different now. So I'm glad to have you in. You know, I wanted to shoot the shit. It's been a long time, and I know you've had a journey. You've traveled the world. You've talked to a lot of different people. But how are you enjoying this quarantine right now? And I guess like what else are you working on?
Well, this quarantine, I'm looking at it as an opportunity, Joe. I'm doing the blog 5 days a week. I'm a banker, so I'm still working during the day. This is my lunch hour if my boss is watching. So I'm staying busy. The attic's clean. I went through 40 years of pictures, went through old Joe Murray videos of him striking out or hitting bombs into right center. You know, I think this is a good time. I might start another book. I might, but I think this is a unique time that we have a great opportunity to do things. You know, we always talk about paint the fence, put the mulch down, paint the room, learn the guitar. Like I just bought a cribbage set. I've never played cribbage. I'm going to teach myself that. So we have something to do. So it's an opportunity. I'm looking at it that way.
Awesome, man. And I know you got a couple of books. You got the Fenway 1946 in the background there, which I right off the bat, right? I wanted to bring just something up that happened about a year ago. And remember when the Bruins went into the Stanley Cup and they needed like a little bit of a warm up, and they like brought all the fans in, and
Yep.
I can't confirm this. Okay, I think somebody may have gotten hurt during that little scrimmage that they had. Bring all the fans in, half price food. Good stuff. And I think it could have cost them in a game 7. It could have. But in 1946, if you can tell the listeners, this happened to the 1946 Red Sox, who won over 100 games, had probably one of the best runs by Ted Williams in history, one of the greatest teams, and come to find out they have a exhibition All-Star game, a game against the All-Stars, and Ted Williams gets hurt. Is that the reason why they potentially lost in 7 games of the 1946 World Series?
So Williams is the 1946 MVP. He comes back from the war. He's at his best. He's hitting home runs, driving in runs, driving the fans crazy. The writers crazy. He's ready to show the world he's the greatest hitter of all time, and he's telling the world he's the greatest hitter of all time. Red Sox clinched the pennant in the American League. The problem is in the National League, the Dodgers and the Cardinals tie. So back then they have a 2 out of 3 series, which means the Red Sox won't be playing for a week. So Yawkey and Joe Cronin, the manager, say, let's bring the All-Stars, American League All-Star team into Fenway. We'll play a game, and we need a bunch of crafty lefties to come in so Williams can see what he's going to face in the World Series. Second at bat, it's about 28-degree wind chill. Curveball doesn't curve from the pitcher. Hits him, Williams on the elbow. It's not broken, but he's never the same, and it just starts everything on the wrong note, and it just goes downhill from there.
Anything similar though to what happened with the Bruins run run?
So last year supposedly Marchand got hurt.
Yeah,
right? Didn't he get slashed or something on the hand and wrist? Although I don't think it was his hand or wrist that compelled him to jump off the ice and allow the Blues to go in and score. Maybe that might have been too many times at Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun dancing on the bar without a shirt on.
Those high tabs that they had, yep.
Yeah, it's really the same thing. It's a great analogy.
Yeah, and come to think about it, and later on we'll do some questions here when it comes to like injuries in sports and stuff like that, or even postseasons. But one happened in that postseason. I don't want to spoil some things in the book because I know people can go and get the book on Amazon, right? That's probably where I'll send people, right?
Yeah, Amazon's a great spot to get it. Yep.
Great. All right, so go to Amazon, buy the book. Many books there. But and I know Peter Gammons had a nice write-up regarding the book, and you know him, he loves the old-time stuff and loves to go way back and everything like that. But this was, and I just watched The League of Their Own this weekend. It's just weird that, like, you know, all the guys were over, you know, in war or whatever, and the girls are starting up a baseball league. But this is when I believe Ted Williams came back. Was this their first run for the war? Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So what made 46 interesting and what brought it to my attention was 2 years ago, the Red Sox were on their way to the World Series, winning game after game. And throughout that season, they kept comparing them to this 46 team that won 104 games, and sort of fascinated me. So I went on to my Globe archives and I started looking and said, wow, what an amazing season. You think they come back from the war. The city of Boston is celebrating, but it's sort of people celebrating in their house. They were rationing for 4 or 5 years now. Where do you go to celebrate? They ended up going to Fenway Park and celebrating every Red Sox game, sold out. I think they drew about 500,000 people in 1945 and 46. They drew 1.5 million. So Boston just came. They celebrated at Fenway Park. Williams was back. They had about 10 or 12 players, starters, that were in the service. They had 2 players, Earl Johnson, a relief pitcher. He fought for 199 straight days. So if you think about it, he was at the Battle of the Bulge and it was below 0 degrees. Wow. He comes back a year later and is playing in 100-degree weather. So it was just an amazing year where the Red Sox, everything came together till the end. So,
and again, I want people to go and read the book, Fenway 1946. I know you have some other excerpt in that title of there, but short and sweet. What I wanted to get to here was, I believe it was Game 7. Was it Game 7? DiMaggio gets a hit, pulls a hamstring, has to come out of the game. He gets replaced. Ball goes, and maybe you can explain a little bit more, but ball goes to the outfield, and kind of maybe a lazy throw to Johnny Pesky. I don't know if Johnny Pesky got a little confused on what to do when he got the ball as well, or maybe didn't know the runner's strengths or anything to that degree. But I don't know. A baseball coach once told me, when you get the ball, what are you going to do with it? And you have to make that decision. Did Johnny Pesky make the wrong decision? Was it the fact that there was an injury? What's your thoughts on that play? I guess on the mad dash, we should call it.
Sure. So the interesting thing was DiMaggio hurts his thigh in spring training, and it never really recovers. And at the worst time, in the 8th inning of Game 7, he just blows it out. And Dom DiMaggio was the best center fielder in baseball at the time. So now you put in the backup center fielder, 8th inning, bottom of 8th in St. Louis, 2 outs, Enos Slaughter on first, base hit to left center. The center fielder that comes in and replaces is nervous. He circles the ball. The field there in St. Louis is the worst in all of baseball. He's concerned it might bounce by him. Then he gets the ball and sort of half throws it in. But the problem was it was a combination. Pesky never anticipated that Slaughter would try to score from first. So Pesky, who was nervous the whole World Series, had a terrible World Series with the glove and the bat. He gets the ball, churns, and double pumps. If he envisioned the possibility, he gets him out by 10 steps. But he never thought. He never thought the ability of Enos Slaughter, a byproduct of the old Gas House gang, would score from first on a base hit to left center. And sadly, Pesky would live that for the rest of his life.
And Slaughter blew off the third base coach, right? He just kept on going.
Yeah, Slaughter went right through the signal. And interestingly, the on-deck batter came to pick up the bat. He never even thought Slaughter would come home. And he almost makes contact with Slaughter as he's sliding in. But the only one in the park that thought he could do it was Slaughter. And, well, it went down history.
Yeah, so the 1946 Red Sox, for those, and I know we're going way back. Okay, we won't bore you with the details, but that's like the significance of what happened there. They were the best team in baseball. They had the best season from Ted Williams. It's actually the only time he ever played in a World Series. From what I
Joe,
imagine.
you like this? They were the biggest favorites in the history of the World Series.
Really?
They were favored in all 7 games, even in St. Louis, and it was the biggest upset in baseball history. 46.
I hope nobody threw the game. I want. I mean, I don't know. We all love Johnny. I don't want to go there, right? we won't go there. But double pumping, and again, maybe it was because DiMaggio was known to have a strong arm, right?
Yeah, DiMaggio would have played it. So he already said he was screaming from the dugout. He anticipated a hit and run in that situation. He said he not only would have kept him from scoring, he said he would have thrown him out at third. So.
Wow. All right. Well, we're giving I get some chats coming in. I'll just throw these on here right now. Look at Joe, man. So inspirational. Right. Going way back, but talking about the 1946 Red Sox team. And Mike's doing everyone a favor today. If any lucky guest would like this book, chat me. Feel free to DM me, and we'll send you one. How about that? And I know you got some other stuff, Mike, when it comes to books. We'll get into that. Let's get into the fun stuff here.
Sounds good.
And again, one thing I just wanted to mention to you, and I've said this before. I've done interviews with you on numerous radio stations wherever I've been. It's Mike. I played high school ball. I really didn't go to college. I went to Mass Bay. I grew up in Hyde Park. But a little bit about your story. Like, you grew up in what? Did you grow up in West Roxbury and went to Catholic Memorial?
Yep, grew up in West Roxbury. We were the typical Irish Catholic family. 6 of us. We were the Brady bunch. I was Peter Brady, the middle son. All 3 of us boys went to Catholic Memorial, played baseball there. Then all 3 of us played college baseball. Brother played at Providence. I played at Bentley, and my younger brother was the captain of Boston College.
Damn.
So baseball, my father played at BC. My grandfather played at BC. So we got baseball in the blood. Played in the Park League.
I was going to say, you played in the Park League and you just kept it going and then became a coach. Is that what happened?
Yeah, then I just wanted to have my, be connected to the game. So by coaching, I could vicariously still play through you guys. And it was a great way for me to stay in the sport. I love the sport, and I'm still doing it 40 years later, still coaching, still enjoying it.
So one thing with me, I have to work a full-time job and somehow find time to do radio. whether it's slaving from 7 to midnight or coming in 6 to 10 in the morning and, working weekends, holiday, like availability is the best ability I've learned when it comes to this kind of stuff. But like, you're a banker. Like, how the hell do you find time to like do all that shit? And then like, in just, I wanted to bring this up too, because like, dude, like in high school, right? Like you think you're the man. Oh yeah, 3-sport like captain, like all this shit. Like after that, like the baseball season goes by so fast, right? There's what, 7 weeks? I don't even like no. There's 7 weeks. You got to get baseball is a sport first and foremost where it's hard to get people's attention long term, especially what we're seeing now, like with Major League Baseball. But like to get 16, 17-year-old kids to invest when there's there's girls, there's parties, there's graduations, there's all sorts of shit going on. Like that's what I like when I think back to high school. It was 7 weeks. It was intense, but at the same time, it's like, you as a coach, like how do you find the time to do that? And like, were there times where you're like, oh man, why am I doing this? And like, is this worth it? At sometimes, like, did you ever have those feelings?
Only when you were at the plate. No, the thing is, Joe, I've been a banker for 35 years now, and you got family, you got your job, and then you start realizing you need balance. You need something different. That's why I got into the coaching. That's why I got into the writing. You need something else that draws out, the inner you and allows you to really sort of be more the Renaissance man than the guy sitting in the chair and eating the Doritos. And coaching gave me that opportunity. Is it challenging? Yeah. Is it difficult to get 16, 17-year-old teenagers on the same page? Yeah. But the one thing, no one was fresher than me and no one gave coaches more shit than me. So, I understand what kids are going through, and I provide some latitude. And I'm sure some players watching this are laughing right now, as they saw more of my jugular than anything else. But I think coaching gives you a chance to impart things you've learned, and hopefully you send the right message. And this is a connection that we made from coach and player.
Yep.
And if I didn't coach, we wouldn't have known each other, and we wouldn't have this opportunity to talk sports and hang out. So there's value there.
So I knew you wrote a book, 26.2 Miles to Ball. I knew you wrote that book, what, mid-90s? Was that when you originally wrote that book?
Yeah, it came out, the first iteration came out in 98. And I ran it in 96. It was back when I was coaching you, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I remember you wrote it. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's a writer. And and then over time I'd see like your name in the newspaper and I'd be like, wow, like that guy like coached me in baseball. Like, oh shit, he's going on and doing other things. I should ask though, so you coached at Trinity. Did you end up coaching anywhere else? Did you do anything after that?
Yeah, so I've coached at a couple different places. So Trinity, I was an assistant at MIT, and now I coach the Hyde Park Legion team.
No way. That was my former stomping grounds.
Yep, and we got the Parkway kids, and it's fun. It's good. I love being involved with it.
So yeah, so a little about me. So I grew up in Hyde Park. I grew up right on the line, like right where the George Wright Golf Course is. So I played Parkway Little League, but once I became 12 years old, it's like, nope, he can't come to play with us. He lives in Hyde Park or whatever. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go play with the Hyde Park kids. But it was great because we got to play Parkway like in like those battles, and it was like I knew all those kids. It was competitive. It was fun. That's one thing I wanted to actually talk to you about. It's funny now because like I work with professional athletes now, so it's hard to say, hey man, yeah, I can play a little ball back in the day or whatever, right? Like I work with Super Bowl champions, right? I played football in high school. It's funny, but like when I talk to people about like growing up in the city, man, like you were a city kid, you mentioned it. There was a lot of talent in the city, and I don't know if it's drugs, if it was family situations, kids couldn't get into college. I don't know what it was. But like, you know how many people have come through the area where you're like, this kid's got potential, this kid could do it? Is there any other place that you've seen, like Boston, that has that story that, oh yeah, I could have been a ball? Like we see like the Charlestown, like the town, right? Oh, I was a hockey player, I could have been this and that. It's like, is there anywhere besides Boston that you hear that story the most?
Yeah, I think because we're here, we see it. We know kids that were great and find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. You're saying this kid's a D2, a D1 college product and should be recruited. And all of a sudden it's like, well, here's my report card. I guess I'll be playing softball down at Billings Field this year. It's a shame, but it's, if you can find a way to sort of navigate through the minefield of the teen years in school, on the field, at home, hanging at the parks and all that, you can play, and all of a sudden you sort of just, you find yourself, hey, I'm playing better, I'm improving, and before you know it, you're one of the people that just passed other people. It's a race, right? And so
Yeah.
if you can pass other people, I can tell you, I played at Bentley. There had to be 50 players at Bentley that were better than me. But
yeah, and like
found a way.
And I'll tell you, like I grew up, I played ball at Manny Del Carmen, right? Kid plays for the Red Sox. I'm like, shit, like this kid was the kicker on my football team growing up. I played, in the baseball league with him. He was good. But did I think he was second round pick good, World Series champion good? No.
It's crazy.
I didn't. I wanted to bring this up. My buddy Jimmy Gogan's checking in. Hey, Mike, did you ever get a chance to meet Ted Williams?
No, I didn't. But I can tell you, in my house, Ted Williams was my mother's favorite player. And I say in the book, in my introduction, anytime we'd say, well, Fred Lynn's a great player, or Reggie Smith, or as my mother would say, not even close. Ted Williams is the greatest of all time. And I must have heard it 1,000 times growing up. So, no, I missed it, but I feel like he was in our house all the time, one way or the other.
Oh, of course. In 1999, right? The All-Star game. It's like who felt like they didn't know Ted Williams at that point? And to me, still one of the, if not, I mean, obviously they've won championships here now, but that's still one of the best moments for me. That's like one thing I regret is not going to the 99 were you at the 99 All-Star game?
No, but what made that whole week was everything was perfect. With Williams coming out in the golf cart, with Pedro's two innings, the most electric two innings in baseball history. McGuire juicing up and hitting balls over the light tower, and it was just everything. It has to be the greatest all-star event in sports history. Those 2 days, unbelievable.
I've discussed that before. Like the All-Star games in general in every sport suck. They all suck. We hope to get something from like Josh Hamilton's in the news again lately, right? But we remember that moment, that home run derby. That was something that was memorable. But I mean, I as far as like, I don't know, things off the top of my head when it comes to the baseball All-Star game, it goes Ted Williams number one for me.
Yeah, it's really special.
Someone's chatting. I think a picture of the coach on the wall behind Joe would be appropriate. I'm working on that. I actually, so after this interview, I might, I was back in, so I live north of Boston now. Like, Mike, I never crossed the Tobin Bridge in my life. Right? You know West Roxbury? Like, Route 1, like the Tobin? You don't even probably ever been out there in your life. That's another thing with the kids don't get about this area.
So, Joe, you moved just to be closer to Kowloon?
Yes. I actually, no, I'm not shitting you. I actually got off the phone with Andy Wong before we did this.
All right.
from the Kowloon. But
this
yeah, so
is brought to you by.
Yeah, I don't know shit, right? But yeah, it's just I never been north. Like I think we played like Linfield or played at like Fraser Field. And that was the shit back in the day, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Playing like under the lights at like Fraser, like that way, and I think there was like a state tournament game against like Newburyport or something.
Yep.
That didn't go well in our favor either. But yeah, that's how I remember like the North Shore life. I'm like, oh geez. So anyways, Mike, I wanted to do some top 10 stuff.
Sure.
How did you end up writing for the Herald?
So I did the blog. I've done it since 2001. And I started bothering all the editors of every newspaper in New England by sending them the blog. And the Herald fell in love with it, and they all of a sudden said, hey, let's do it here at the Herald, and did it for, I forget, maybe 6, 7, 8 years with the Herald, and it was well received. And they had a change in policy after about 7 years where bloggers had to be employees. So I went on my way and now do it for website, but I put it out on my Facebook and shoot it out in email. So I've got a nice following, and it's fun to do, streams of consciousness, and Whatever's in my mind, it comes out, and people seem to like it.
So I don't know how you find the time for that. I listen. I know some useless information. I really do, but I can't put it to paper. Like, what are you doing? You just put up a notepad one day and you just start going. Is that it?
Yeah, I got little pieces of paper all over the house with different things. What were the odds Carl Everett would not be in jail? What's Ted Williams? What did he do in 41 in the month of August? Tuukka Rask, should he wear a neck brace when he's choking in game sevens? Just anything that comes to mind. I write it down, and then all of a sudden it ends up in the top 10. And
Yeah, you can always go back in history on those. And some of those might be in our top 10 questions that we do.
all right.
In just a minute here. I just wanted to mention this to you real quick. I did a show yesterday with a couple of baseball guys, Matt McCarthy and Marshall Hook, and we actually were talking. I forget who it was who did a top 100 list of like the best athletes of all, or best baseball players. I don't know if you've seen this. I got it on my phone. I'll look at it real quick. But Mike Mussina was the 99th best player of all time, ranked in the top 100 at 99.
So,
How do you feel about that ranking? And did you want, at the time, were you a Mussina guy or a Manny Ramirez guy?
at the time, I was probably a Messina guy, but he's certainly not 99th. I'd put him about 299. He's no Tiant. He's he was a really good pitcher. The one thing I remember about Messina was the only time I rooted for a no hitter against the Red Sox. And the only thing Kyle Everett did, other than get thrown out of the Family Day game when he headbutted the umpire, is he broke that no hitter up in the ninth inning at Fenway.
That and the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's about it for Kyle Everett. All right, we're gonna do the world famous Conley top 10. I'm gonna put some of my insights in this as well. So number 1, 4 greatest baseball players of your lifetime, and I just wanted to bring this up. According to CBS, the top 100 players of 2020, they have Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Garrett Cole, and Christian Yelich. So that's from CBS just for baseball right now in 2020. But Mike Conley, I ask you, 4 greatest baseball players of your lifetime.
Well, I'd start with Pedro. And it's not just because he's from Boston, but I'll tell you, growing up and you're at work and Pedro's pitching on a Friday night, you got Sean McDonough and Jerry Remy. It was like Christmas Eve to know Pedro was pitching. And to think the moments that Pedro provided us. We talked about the All-Star game, Joe. That was electric. His fastball was exploding at the plate. You talk about him coming out of the bullpen in Cleveland in the playoffs with no shoulder. He's got to drop his arm angle and wins that game. Ice Williams attacks him on the mound down in Tampa Bay, and he proceeds to get the next 26 hitters out in a row. All these moments are just so special that Pedro, the 17 strikeout game at Yankee Stadium on a Friday night by Pedro is the greatest pitched game in the history of baseball. Going up against Giambi and Jeter and Bernie Williams and Chili Davis and all those players, every pitch was perfect except the home run by Chili Davis. Slider stayed a little flat.
Yep. And your other top 4 you have?
So Pedro's one, then throw Ryan Sandberg in there. I love watching him. I'm a second baseman.
I was going to say, had to be the second baseman thing.
Yeah. That's the skill position. That's where the best athletes play second base, Joe, just so you know. So Sandberg stole 50 bases one year, hit 40 home runs, was a Gold Glove winner. And the funny thing about Sandberg was he was going, if I remember this right, he was going through a divorce. And he didn't want his wife to get any money from his contract, so he skipped the entire year. And then he really never recovered. But Sandberg was amazing. He was polished. He was something else.
Did he get his money? I mean, he probably got his money in the end, right?
Yeah, then he came back the next year.
That's a power move right there. That's a power move. And I see right on the list, Ichiro and Ken Griffey Jr. to wrap it up.
Yeah, Ichiro's maybe him and Josh Hamilton are the greatest athletes ever to play the sport. Ichiro's so polished. He could throw, he could run, he could hit. He even had a little pop. And then if you're throwing Griffey, he was a generation changer. Hat on backwards, most beautiful swing in the history of the game. and then jumping over fences, taking home runs away. Those four are special to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I have four. And I've been thinking about it for a little bit, but Griffey and Pedro are like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You talk about generational players. Those two were certainly them. I just wanted to mention that on that top 100 list, Ichiro was number 100. Musina was 99.
Bullshit.
Yeah, Mike, maybe you should write a top 100 list.
All right. Can we go back quickly to Trout? I think he is the most overrated player in the history of baseball. He's an unbelievable talent. I don't think his teams have won one playoff game. If I was to take a player, it's Mookie Betts. It's not even close to Trout.
So here's my thing with that. I have an issue with speed players in general long term, and I don't know if that's a contract thing, right? But I know we watched Kyle Crawford here. We saw Jacoby Ellsbury. There's probably other speed guys. McCutcheon was probably another one as well. I'm just talking about this generation.
Sure.
But speed guys long term, if they don't have the long ball, and if their legs die out, it's kind of like they become a one-dimensional player. So that's my only issue, where I think Trout could do this for a long time.
Yeah, he'll go down as one of the top 10 players with WAR and all that sabermetrics bullshit. But the eye test tells me, is he big in big moments? Like, do you want him up or Ortiz up? Do you want him up or, I just think Betts is a much better player. I'd take Yelich over Trout. I'd take 10 players over Trout.
Wow. See, I think Trout's a great player. The only thing that bothers me about Mike Trout, what do you know about the guy? He likes Subway, right? What else is there to know about him? What's he do? What's his favorite team? Well, like, what's his favorite color? Does he watch movies? Does he date a
channel is, Joe?
Does he date a famous model? Like, what is it about the guy?
He's addicted. Literally, he's addicted to the Weather Channel. That's his station.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, a little fun fact for you.
Well, maybe we could bet on the weather in California these days. That could get something out of him. A couple people checking in. Josh Marion, Pedro, Savage for sure. How did Musina beat Ichiro? Of course, that list. I wish I could credit the list. I have it somewhere. I'll find it. It's somewhere in my notes. I'm sure you know all about that, Mike. Question number 2 in the Connelly top 10. What is more likely to happen? Brady beats Peyton Manning in all categories in win without Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick beats Don Shuler's record in wins without Tom Brady?
Yeah, I think ultimately, so Brady's pretty much passed Peyton on almost everything, but he wants to bury him. Peyton's the Will Chamberlain and Brady's the Russell. The funny thing about Brady's rush to he's already the greatest sports team athlete of all time, but this Drew Brees thing is sort of getting in the way of him having all the records. So Brady is going to be what Montana was to KC and what Favre was to Minnesota. A nice playoff team. They're going to be a 10-6, maybe win one playoff game. Belichick, he wants to destroy Shula. I think Shula's down there in Florida drooling on his wheelchair. Shula's talking shit during Spygate about the Patriots. Belichick's motivated. He wants to bury Shula, Mercury Morris, Jim Zonka, all those Dolphins wannabes. And I think Belichick wins 2 more Super Bowls. He's going to find a way this year to make this team 10-6. He's got $100 million available after this year in the salary cap.
I agree. And we'll talk about the Patriots quarterback situation in a minute here. We'll continue the Connelly's top 10 here. What injury hurt the local team most during the postseason? I kept it down to these. We kind of hinted on one of them earlier, but Kendrick Perkins sprains his knee in Game 6 of the 2010 Finals versus Lakers. The 2012 Super Bowl with Gronk's ankle. And Tuukka Rask plays Game 7 with a throat ailment. I left 2 out. I know Jim Rice in 75 was one of them, and the Ted Williams. But of those 3, is there one that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think if Gronk is healthy during that Super Bowl, you win it, no question. As soon as they knew he was hurt, they only committed a linebacker to him. They didn't have to go double team. And if you remember that game, the Hail Mary pass at the very end, Gronk was within inches of that ball. If he has a good ankle, does he push off? Does he jump and get that ball? And of course, Rask, the poor guy, Game 7, his throat was just a little verklempt and was unable to perform. We've seen this before against Russia. And Joe, here's a Connelly tangent. Do you put Tuukka Rask in Game 7? Jerry Cheevers, Tim Thomas? It's just same thing like Clemens. I'd never pitch Clemens in Game 7. I go Tiant, Lonborg, Pedro, Schillen, Bruce Hurst. I think Clemens and Tuukka, they look good. You know, they're the guys that look. Tuukka's got the butterfly and looks perfect, and it's like, fuck him. No, give me Tim Thomas every day in Game 7.
And he can do great for the international team, right? But and listen, so I'll tell you a funny story. So when we work at the Sports Hub, if you're like a weekend guy and there's like a Saturday matinee game or whatever, I'm the guy that's like, hey, everybody, the game's over and I'm here. Let's take calls, like whatever. And we have to interview the play-by-play team. So Bob Beers, former defenseman and play-by-play. So they have to beat Ottawa. And I think this is 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. And they have to beat Ottawa to get into the playoffs, just to get in, and like something else had to happen for them or whatever. Tuukka gets the shits, and can't play in the game. And they lose. Like they lose. I think like Sean Corrali was like the only one who like did anything that day or whatever. And he was nothing at the time. And so after the game, first question. All right, guys. So did they lose today's game because of Tuukka Rask? I get crushed because I'm not a hockey guy, right? I never played the game. I have no credibility when it comes to like these hockey guys, I swear to God. And with a goalie actually winning a game off the street this year, these hockey hardos now have something to back themselves up with. But like I got completely shitted on for that take or an opinion, but the guy shits his pants. And know what we found out? He was at Buff's Pub the night before, like drinking it up. But like you are right. Like when they needed him, he didn't play well. And I don't want to get into it when it comes to Game 7 last year because I think the whole team didn't show up.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like if there is a playoff or if it continues, they have to look at the two goalie look. And I know that's something that doesn't happen in NHL, but the two goalie look in a playoff might not be a bad thing for a guy like Tuukka Rask.
Joe, it's $7.5 million, $8 million a year. He can afford a box of Depends.
All right, we'll move on there. And
is that a yellow card?
No, I still think he's good. I still think he's good. I don't know who could that's what these hockey guys say to you. Who's going to replace him? Who's going to replace him?
He's the greatest November goalie I've ever seen.
He might be the best goalie in their history. I don't know. I mean, you've watched more hockey than I have. He might be their best goalie.
Yeah, he probably is. He looks the part. He does the part. Again, back to my Game 7. You could choose 3 or 4 goalies. I'd put Pete Peters before him, for crying out
loud. Just real quick about that local team that got an injury. The Perkins injury, I think, really did hurt. I still go back to this. Like when I'm bored, I'll go back to that 2010. Doc Rivers played 2 guys off the bench that day. He played Tony Allen and he played Glenn Big Baby Davis. Nobody else. No one else off the bench. Like Ray Allen's giving up points to Kobe Bryant all day long and like didn't even look at. And I'll have to look at who else was on the bench that year. But the fact that you went 7 guys that whole entire game, and granted you had to start Rasheed Wallace, so that probably hurt him a little bit. They had a lead in the 4th quarter, and I remember Phil Jackson even saying this team is known to blow leads. They had that lead. They had a chance. I guess you can say the same thing about the Patriots in the Super Bowl that year. I just think the Giants had their number, and I don't know. I guess it'll be up for debate for years and years and years.
Yep. All right.
All right, moving on with the Connelly Top 10. So this one I thought was great. So it's the 2003 playoffs, and it's Game 7, Yankees, Red Sox to go to the World Series. You're in extra innings. Oh, sorry, you're in the was it 6th or 7th inning, and Grady Little leaves Pedro in the game. He thought he was coming out. He leaves him in. But I always remember, like on sports radio, you'd always hear Timlin in the 8th, and then William. I think it was Williamson was the closer then. Mike Timlin stats. Grady Little stuck with Pedro and didn't go with Mike Timlin. What was Timlin's stats in the 03 playoffs?
I think he threw almost 11 innings, 1 hit, no runs. He virtually threw a no-hitter out of the bullpen in the 2003 postseason. And add to that, Alan Embry and Scott Williamson, the 3 of them threw almost 30 innings, gave up 1 earned run. So you had a hot bullpen. And the thing I always remember about Pedro, and you listen to the announcers, oh, his velocity, he's still 93, 94, hitting on the gun. But the thing with Pedro was he was a surgeon. What you should notice on him, and what Grady, who gets paid to notice these things, is location. He was missing location. And as soon as that happened, as soon as his changeup got flat and he wasn't able to move the ball away from Posada's barrel, that's when Grady should have said, nope, we're going to Embry against Posada. We got Timlin coming in. We'll close out with Williamson, and we win this game. Instead, we have a moment that was vintage Red Sox up to that point in 03.
They made up for it. So,
but in the vacuum at that moment, you say, oh, fuck, here we go again.
Dude, all right, and another crazy thing, because I read every week. I'm not shitting on. I'm not doing kissing your ass here. I read the Connelly top 10 every week. I do it. You had a nugget about what Aaron Boone's statistics were when he faced Tim Wakefield in the playoffs that year.
Yeah, originally when they brought in Wakefield, I thought it was stupid because he gives up home runs, and a home run wins the game and the series. But ultimately, Boone, he had one hit off Wakefield going into that. He had one home run in his last 70 at bats, and he was having a terrible series. He was benched that game.
Yep.
So I guess analytics would say it wasn't a bad matchup, but as the Yankees and Red Sox, Bucky Dent and all these things over the years, you knew it was ultimately going to turn out that way. And I felt that way in 04 too, when A-Rod knocks the ball out of the glove, and like, oh, here we go. But
how do you feel about Aaron Boone as a manager?
Well, interestingly, him and Cora are the winningest managers in the history of baseball right now, winning percentage wise. Yeah. So I think Boone's done a great job. He's had a shitload of injuries he's had to deal with. Granted, they have a farm system and they got resources to draw upon, but I think he's done a great job. I mean, as far as we know, doing it without knowing the fastball curveball are coming.
That's true. And, just quickly, I want to stick with the top 10, but what do you think is going to happen with Alex Cora? Like, is it just going to be a slap? I mean, he should be punished the most.
Yeah.
But with everything happening now, what do you think the outcome will be for Alex Cora?
I think this was a back room. This was already discussed even before they were told get rid of Cora. I wouldn't be surprised if Cora's back next year. I think this is a Michael Jordan. You're not playing basketball this year. Go play baseball, and you're back. And Jordan's bad at the roulette table. So I think this is a thing that baseball's, behind the scenes said, you're moving Cora right now, and then we'll slap you on the wrist. But if you go back to when Cora was the bench coach at Houston, there was an incident on a bus where Cora was drunk and making fun of his manager. He bitch slapped his manager in front of the entire team. The manager's probably like, we shouldn't be doing this. And Cora's like, fuck you, we're doing it. We're going to win a World Series. Players, we're with Cora. So I think Cora is the mastermind behind all of this. I would ban him for life if I was baseball.
Whoa. There were guys doing steroids and all sorts of other shit.
This is worse than steroids.
Cheating. All right. I'll say this: if I know a pitch is coming, maybe I could have the advantage.
Sure, and you would have knocked that tree down in right field.
If I knew a fastball is coming, I'll probably would be eyeing fastball and probably hit the ball. But the steroid thing I do agree with. Like, you still have to have a little bit of talent, right? I do think like steroids help some guys out in their careers because they didn't have the talent. That's a debate. That's a debate. What was worse, steroids or cheating? Obviously, it's both the same thing, but what impacted the game more? Maybe it was what the Red Sox and the Astros did.
Quick Connelly tangent. So Bonds, when he was juicing, his eyesight actually improved, which is the most important thing. And his barrel to ball and his contact number was through the roof. Interestingly, if you go to Nomar, you take his picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated without the shirt on, and you take his stats before the cover of SI and after the cover, he's one of the guys the steroids cost him the Hall of Fame. Wow. His career went down because he just got too muscle bound. He was loose, great extension, could move. Steroids ruined his career.
Yeah, I don't want to put him in the category of those speed guys that break down and don't have it, but he certainly broke down. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, his numbers are incredible. Nomar, he was just an asshole, right? He just wasn't a likable guy.
So, Joe, I'm coming at the Boston media. That's you too, brother. Everyone knew that he was an asshole, but no one said a word. Like, here we are thinking Nomar's, he's hustling down first and he's waving, he's doing all this shit. And then you find out he's got a line in front of his locker and reporters can't step over that. And it's like, hey, if you're a reporter, that's what you should tell us readers or listeners. Say, hey, Nomar's an asshole. It's like, all right, still a great baseball player, but I'd like to know who I'm rooting for.
I think Steve Buckley tried.
Yeah,
I think he tried. I guess he tried, and I think people always kind of gave the heat for it. But in the end, I think he was right. He was right a little bit. I wanted to ask you. You actually came up with something yesterday about some rule changes in sports. I just want to get your thoughts on the pass interference replay rule removed this season in the NFL. Do you think this was something to appease the Saints? And your thoughts on replay in general? And then I have a beef. You mentioned that when Bird stole the ball, the famous Johnny Most call, it would have never happened if replay was in effect, because they would have replayed the play before and it would have just never happened and it would have been Pistons win the championship. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, well, first let's go to the Saints. The non-interference call is the greatest thing that ever happened to Drew Brees and Coach Payton, because they completely threw up on Dean Wormer at the end of that game, passing the ball. All they had to do is run. Even without that, all they had to do is run the ball, kick the field goal, and go. So Payton and Brees should be sending Christmas cards to that ref. Now, with regards to the Bird steal, the play before was really close. It was knocked off Season's foot, I think, and it was right near and they fell into the front row. That definitely would have got replayed. Detroit would have gathered themselves around the bench. They would have put a play in effect. Instead, Isaiah just grabbed the ball, threw it in, and the rest is history. And a great point. The one thing I love about that steal, sorry, tangent, is if you watch that whole play, Bird is knocked down and slides on his ass all the way in front of the Celtics bench. The game's over. But Bird finds a way, picks himself up, typical Bird, blue collar. That's why we love him. Gets into the perfect position, reads the entire play like a chess player, and steals it, gives it to DJ, and Johnny Most goes crazy.
Still a hell of a steal.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Like it's still. I wish I was old enough to like enjoy it live. You know what I mean? It is funny how like it's so funny when people talk like old Celtics basketball to me, and I do a plug here. You have a great book that you wrote, Rebound, involving Larry Bird and busing in Boston and how it brought the community together and everything to that degree. But like everybody watched Larry Bird, and in the words of your book, I won't put words in your mouth, but the way that I kind of took it is Larry Bird might have saved this with all the shit that was going on with busing and everything like that.
What's funny, when he got drafted by Auerbach, they started calling him the savior. And it was interesting when he came here, the city of Boston and the Celtics were on the precipice of complete collapse. And Boston was in the middle of the busing and the forced integration. The Celtics had Curtis Rowe and Sidney Wicks, and they're all doing coke. And they, not necessarily those two, but the coke was in the NBA and the league was going under. And all of a sudden, Bird shows up in '79, and the whole world changes. It's the Wizard of Oz. We go from black and white to Technicolor. And all of a sudden, a team of 6 blacks, 6 whites showed all of Boston, hey, we can do this. You get together, you put talents together, it doesn't matter, and they win that championship. They beat the Sixers in the second greatest series in the history of Boston. And then they go on and they beat Houston. So I think Bird probably wasn't his intention to save Boston, but by his talents and by bringing that team together, you look at those people at City Hall celebrating when he gives his famous Moses does eat shit speech. It's like, look what Bird did for this town. And the power of sports, right? We're seeing it right now. Sports, we miss it because sports brings us together. It's like, that's the power of sports right there.
Michael Connelly on the show today. He's got the book you can see in his background there. I'll kind of put this here because I worked on it. I've been working on some things here, Mike. With
You got
the
skills,
podcast.
Joe.
There's a question up. Let me take down that question first, and then I'll put the banner up here. Okay, great. 26 miles to Boston, 26.2 miles to Boston, is one book, and then Fenway 1946. Go get them, Amazon, and you can go get the Rebound book if you're a Larry Bird. And I'll tell you, a great way to kill some time these days, Mike, is certainly, I don't know, reading books. Might be a nice way to kill some time these days.
I think it's a great idea, Joe.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on with the and I don't get paid for this, so just please, I'm truly endorsing this. All right,
You're
six.
You're like Scott Boras.
Yes, I'm the hype man right now.
Yeah.
All right, so worst local coaches. In another book to plug here, you and Andy Grash wrote a book years ago, The Great Book of Boston Sports Lists, which is awesome. The worst local coach. I'm going to give you the list, okay? You have Patino 1, Dave Lewis 2, Butch Hobson, Steve Casper, ML Carr, Joe Carrigan, Pete Carroll, Grady Little. You got Rod Rust in there, and who's the fellow from BC?
Ed Klebeck.
Klebeck, sorry. So Patino definitely ruined the Celtics. So from what he did it have the biggest impact? I think it did. So you might be right about the list. Dave Lewis sucked. Dave Lewis was a product of Detroit and everything he did there, got his money. He sucked. Butch Hobson, I remember like Roger Clemens putting like the headphones on, right? Wouldn't listen to him at spring training. Steve Casper sucked. ML Carr was like a let's throw the season, right? I mean, Joe Carrigan, though, to me, that was the worst. He sucked to the media. Remember as he walks into the media, wow, there's many people here at my funeral. And, it's like, dude, you suck already. He showed up and he sucked.
I think Pedro hated him so much. I think at one point he was describing what was bad about Carrigan. And he literally said something like, he smells. I don't think he showers. He smells. It's like, oh, this is bad. That was I think Pedro ripped his shirt off and threw it at his feet and said, I'm done. He tabled it for the year.
Yeah.
And if we go back to Dave Lewis.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't go with the Hitler mustache. Just not a good look. And
Nope.
You're starting with a strike against you. So I would say no on the Hitler mustache. And Pete Carroll's on that list. The one thing I remember about Pete Carroll, obviously he was the antithesis of Parcells. He was a player's coach. But when Borges bitch slapped him in that press conference, if Pete Carroll ever said right there, if he ever go he went across the table. If he went across the table and punched Borges in the face, then everyone would have respected him. Instead, he said, gee golly whiz there, Ron. I think you might be wrong, but it's a fair question. And like, I'm pumped and jacked about this. It's like, Pete, please don't. Go out to Seattle, get your surfboard, hang out with the co-ed. It's over. But we've had some bad coaches, Joe.
I still think he's a great coach and a top 5 coach in the league for sure.
Yeah, he's in the right situation. But all you got to do is look at his face after the Butler interception. It was like, oh my God, he's got Rashay Caldwell eyes going right now. It's like, oh, what's going on? But
that might still be the worst play call. There's some bad ones, man. There's been some bad ones.
So if you take that play call, and how was that influenced by that unbelievable tackle by Hightower that got him? He made that tackle before the play before that said, all right, we got a chance for the pass. Like, I think it changed their minds, and just to watch Belichick watching Carroll's body language and what he's doing, and to read and analyze, and the master. Unbelievable.
See, everybody writes a book about Bill Belichick, Mike. Like you I'm just throwing shit out there. The Ernie Adams is probably something that people would be very interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about like book ideas, but the Ernie Adams Bill Belichick, like, and I know they've done it. I think they did it on like something, but like that's what I want to know. Like, what is Belichick doing during a game. Like, he writes things down on a card.
Yeah.
What's he writing? I want to see the cards. Like, that's the interesting shit I'd love to read. Like, just, like Brad Stevens does these things nowadays, right? Like, we have this joke at our station, G Willikers. Like, we always think like that with Brad. But like, I have heard that he does get pissed off. Like, he even knows it too. Like, he hears this shit. He's one of these like millennial coaches that knows what's going on with social media. Like Belichick, I think he's playing with us all. I think he knows this stuff too. But like, what these little things he's doing, like, I think it gets in other coaches' heads. There's no one else that has property and owns real estate in other people's heads than Bill Belichick. And I think that's why everyone wants to write a book about Belichick. You know what I mean? But we have learned like things about him. But you're right. To that point, that he was like, what's Pete doing? What's Pete doing? Well, what was it? Did he have some sort of scouting report on Pete's like sideline? Does he get pumped and jacked when like he's gonna run a play? like I just the shit's crazy when it comes to the things Belichick does.
Unbelievable. My favorite Belichick moment was when they went to play Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship, and he's doing the film work, and he calls a family member and says, "I figured it out. Packed for the Super Bowl." It's like, imagine having that kind of insight and understanding. Well, I've solved the riddle. We're moving on. Thanks, Kawa.
Yeah, and Drew Bledsoe, who I love. So again, my biggest influences as athletes were Mo Vaughn and like essentially Drew Bledsoe. And I've been thinking about like a Celtic. Like, there's been so many of them over the years that like I don't think I had a true Celtics. Like, I love the Sherman Douglas Celtics, the ones that sucked. The Kevin Gambles of the world and like those teams, the Dino Rogers, right? Like, I watched those teams. They sucked, but like I watched them every Friday night. Like, that's what I was into. And then like this guy Antoine Walker came along and just started jacking up threes every day. And I'm like, well, what is this shit? So like, in sports, it's like, I feel like it. Mo Vaughn, Drew Bledsoe almost threw a pick in that AFC Championship game that like would have been like
over his head backwards.
It would have been the worst interception like of his career. That's all he would have been known for.
He is so lucky that ball falls in front of the linebackers.
I will say this about him though. He great guy. Like he owns it now. Like, I think Bledsoe's happy with his career. He knows there's some things he could have done better. I do give him the benefit of the doubt though. Like, number 1 overall pick, and how many different offensive coordinators did he have? I think in the offensive line, like, he's a guy that I think could have been better than he really was.
The only thing I'll say about Bledsoe, and I agree, one of the toughest football players ever, playing with a pin hanging out of his hand. His 70 pass game against the Vikings with the overtime pass to Kevin Cherner, God rest his soul.
Yep.
But if anyone gets a chance to watch the E60 on Bledsoe, he still is pained by losing that position. And his family is, his wife and his father, they're still bullshit over it. It's interesting. A great career. I don't, will he be in the Hall of Fame? He did lose his starting position in 3 different teams, but certainly worthy of all the accolades in New England. He brought this team back. So I feel bad for him on some level. But certainly a great player and top 15 Patriot of all time, top 10 maybe.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I just don't. His numbers certainly are there if you look at it, right? For entire, like he's up there with all these other guys, Fouts, all these other guys,
Yeah, Fouts is probably a pretty good comparison, Joe. Great numbers, didn't finish off, didn't win the Super Bowl against the Packers. Thanks, Desmond Howard. But a really, really good player. A step above Mike Greenwell. So
I'm friendly with Ted Johnson, 3-time Super Bowl champ, and we talk about that 96, 97 Super Bowl all the time. Like he was highlighted. Like Madden loved Ted in that game, but he like has like these like Willie Clay over the top like scaries in his brain. Like, like he just when he said when Brett Favre took his helmet off, like that like set everybody off on the team. They had a chance late in that game. It was Desmond Howard. That's that truly what changed it. Continuing on here with the Connelly's top 10. We got a few more to go here. Sports Illustrated ranked the Patriots position at 29, the quarterback position. In this year's draft, is there a quarterback that you like And are there any other players in this year's draft that you like for the Patriots?
Yeah, I love Winfield, Antonio Winfield out of Minnesota, the safety. He's a
Yep.
playmaker. He's 5'11". He's not as big for safety, but he's just one of these guys that makes plays. He's got a good heritage. His father was a great player. I like the Hurt kid from Alabama and Oklahoma. He's a winner. I think he would fit into the system. I think you can get him maybe in the third round. I love the kid, the wide receiver out of USC, Pittman.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
He can get downfield a little bit, but he could run those short routes for you.
He's huge too.
Yeah.
He's got that height too.
It's funny. I mentioned this in my top 10 yesterday about Pittman. Today's top 10, I'm going into my archives from 2001, asking how the Cardinals can allow Pittman, who's his father, who just ran his car into the wife's car and was arrested twice for domestic abuse, and he got suspended for a game and was playing that Sunday. So I'm like, well, on back-to-back days, I'm talking about different generations of Pittmans. The last guy is Zach Moss out of Utah. He is Marshawn Lynch. He could be a steal. I can't take him down. He's got good feet. I'd love to see him in the Patriots. And you could take Sonny Michel and maybe put him on the practice squad. And maybe put him in. He could play on League of Your Own too with that agenda.
It's true. He could be on the replacements maybe if as well. So listen, I'm going to give Sony a pass, and here's why. Fullback. That guy needs a fullback, and I think if you're going to be a running back in the NFL, you should be able to run without a fullback. He needs it. He needed that. I don't know if that goes back to his Georgia days. Him and Nick Chubb, they switched off on carries. I don't know what the future is for Devlin. They brought in the kid Vitale from Green Bay, who's pretty good as well. So I'm just bringing it up. I don't know the future of Devlin, but the guy's got a neck injury. So we'll see what happens there. But I think with a real fullback in there, I think Michelle can be a quality back.
Joe, I watched 10 Commandments Saturday, 4 hours worth. And when Moses parts the sea.
Yeah, I watched that. Go ahead.
That's the hole Sonny Michel has. But by the time he gets to the hole, the sea comes back.
But he's not a dancer, though.
Slow to the hole.
He's not Lawrence Maroney. He's not Maroney. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's like a Le'Veon Bell like effect. But he gets the ball, and yeah, you're right. He doesn't go at the hole. He gets the ball, and then he's slow. And then once he gets through, that's where you see his speed. Yeah. So, to me, I know I watched the kid at Georgia. He was a dynamic back. I don't know if it's his knee injury. I think he's timid. I think the fullback not getting in front of him, and maybe that first burst, I think, makes him slow. And maybe it's part of the knee injury. Yeah,
I agree. But he doesn't get to the second level to open it up. So watch this Harris kid from Alabama who they redshirted last year.
So I get some insight on him. Ivan Fears, the running backs coach, hates backs who cut. He doesn't like these guys who dance. So last year, I think it was against Detroit in a preseason game. He had a 30-yard run. Yeah. But he didn't hit the hole. He bounced to the outside, benched. That was it. You couldn't run the ball at all last year, but you didn't want to give this guy a shot. And granted, they didn't do that with Shane Vereen or Stephen Ridley, or these other backs. They usually redshirt them that first year, and then next year they make an impact.
Yeah, and the thing that the Parcells, the Belichick, the offense is there to complement, move sticks, and they want Marion Butts, but if you can get 7 yards, that's better than 3 yards, right? Oh
God, Marion Butts, 44, number 44 came over from the Chargers. Everyone thought it was going to be the biggest. That's when I loved the Patriots. That was Sam Gash might even been the fullback back then. That's a big backfield.
Every block was a car crash.
That's a huge backfield. One thing about the kid Zach Moss. So it sounds like you watch a lot of college football. I do it for different reasons, obviously. Zach Moss, though, single-handedly led the Utah offense. Tyler Huntley was a nice little dynamic quarterback. He's not really accurate. He'll probably get drafted. But when Zach Moss was on, that team was on, and they could run the football and play defense and play that kind of Utah football. They couldn't do that against Oregon in that playoff. And I brought this up the other day because I always remember my losses. I never remember my wins. Utah lost to Oregon. They went for it on 4th down 4 times and couldn't convert. They scored 21 straight points. They're down 6 points with 4 minutes to go, and they punted on 4th down. That killed me. Like, you got the 4th and 2 and this big-ass Moss in the backfield and Huntley, and you don't go for it? That killed me. And then Oregon scored on the next play, a 70-yard pass.
Well, on the good note, that probably knocks him down in the draft, not showcasing his skills and short yardage. And maybe you can trade down, get him in late in the 2nd round, maybe 3rd round. I don't know, but I love him.
So the quarterback I like is Cole McDonald from Hawaii. The reason for I want he's got the dreadlocks. He's I don't want to use the Brett Favre comparison, but the guy's got balls. He'll throw it into any situation. He's mobile too. Like he can move. He's always been out of the shotgun. That always kind of concerns me with some guys. I mean, Stidham was like that at Baylor, and then with Auburn, it was a different situation. The reason why I like McDonald is there's upside there. This is a kid with actual ability. He just played at Hawaii. Maybe the conference wasn't that great. So he's a guy that I think that they could, 6th, 7th round pick, get him those camp reps and maybe keep him around on the practice squad.
See, Joe, now I'm going to come at you again for being the media. You're dying for a scenario where this guy shows up at Foxborough with a surfboard with the dreadlocks and say, oh, I would love to see him with Belichick in the film room. I like him too, Joe. The only problem is they benched him at some point during the season, and he might have had a behavior problem.
Oh yeah.
But that system they run there is all seam routes and throwing deep. They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see him chuck it. But back to Stidham, I just read a great article on Stidham this weekend talking about how Auburn could not have been the worst place to go to. It didn't showcase his skill set, and that at Baylor, Briles brought out his skills, and if Baylor didn't implode, then Stidham's a top 5 pick in the draft.
I totally agree.
So, and the one benefit of no Brady this year is you're not going to have him just Gronk, Edelman. You're going to. I think you're okay at wide receiver, to be honest with you. I think Harry develops. I don't like his attitude. I think he's going to be trouble. He's going to pick up a couple 15-yarders this year. But I think your wide receiver's okay. You got to get a tight end. You have to.
Cole Kmet's the kid I like from Notre Dame. I don't know if he'll make an impact.
He'll go early, though. You're going to have to trade up for him.
I don't know if he'll make an impact right away. But they've drafted tight ends before and, put him right into the fold. Daniel Graham, I know he didn't have the production, but he was a good blocker. And Ben Watson early on, whatever. And then we know about Hernandez and Gronk from there. So,
let's take Florida off the draft board.
Yeah,
University of Florida.
Yeah, the Patriots have been linked to Van, the kid Van, the wide receiver from Florida, and I'm like, no, Van Jefferson, I think it is. No, like it just right off the bat, not that guy.
There's not enough ankle bracelets in Foxborough for Florida players.
Moving on here, touchdown receptions of 50 yards or more. Stanley Morgan had 19. Julian Edelman has 4. All right, I'm going to tell you my opinion first. Julian Edelman is not a Hall of Famer. The guy's never been a Pro Bowler. Your thoughts on just Julian Edelman in general, and am I not giving him enough credit?
The guy's a fucking warrior, first of all. I still, to this day, think the hit he took from Chancellor in the Seattle Super Bowl, I think he was running unconscious. If you look at that play,
absolutely.
I think he's just so wired to keep going. I think he was unconscious running, gets another 5 yards, and yet another tangent. I get 10 tangents a podcast, Joe, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pulling out. I think you're going to see Brady wide receivers die early. Edelman, Welker, some tight ends, some of these backs out in the flat, just because of the routes that Brady demands that his wide receivers run. I think the hits they've taken, if you go back to the play before Welker makes the drop against the Giants, he got absolutely laid out on a head hit. And then they go right back to him on the seam. It was definitely Welker's fault. He makes that catch 9 out of 10 times. But Welker and Edelman, the over-under, Joe, in Vegas, I'm going to say 67.
Yeah, and his off-field life is intense as well. I know
Yeah.
he likes to jump on cars, but I give him a break on that one because like usually he's playing divisional weekend or AFC, so he didn't know what to do AFC Championship weekend. You know what I mean? So like I give him a pass on that one. Normally he's playing football, so
Yeah.
I'll give him a pass on that one. But speaking of that, Wes Welker, do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
No, just misses. I think right now Welker in football lore is a better player, better stats than Edelman. Edelman was desperate for this playoff season to go 3 games, so he could. His only chance is to have great postseason stats, and he's going that way. But he needs to catch Rice if he wants to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and that's probably not happening. Another guy that left New England. Not sure it truly paid off. And Edelman says he wants to stay here, so we'll see how it happens here. Who is the toughest Boston sports athlete in your opinion in history?
That's a tough one. We've had some good ones. Didn't Rodney Harrison make a tackle with a broken arm in the Carolina Super Bowl?
Yeah. You mentioned it as players who brought the storm.
Yeah. See, and that was a sort of play on the storm was coming with the epidemic here, and like we can do this. We're tough too. You got Terry O'Reilly, you got Winsink, you got Jay Miller. And the Celtics, you had Dave Cowens, a very underrated player in Boston sports law. Let's see, you got Sox, you had Jim Lomborg, who had no problem drilling people. We had some tough guys over the years. Hanner, you could just probably see him eating dirt before the games. Russell was tough. You don't know who was going to mess with Russell. Kendrick Perkins was tough.
Oh, yeah.
I think Garnett, a lot of bark there. I don't know how tough Garnett was. Pounding on underneath the hoop before the game, pounding his chest. And if we want to go, Garnett, Perkins, yeah. Perkins was what scared people.
Yeah. Are you a wrestling fan at all? Do you ever watch WWE or anything like that?
Joe, if you said that Haystacks Calhoun, Chief Jay Strongbow, and Bruno are coming out of retirement, if they're alive, I'm watching. And segue, Andre the Giant, great documentary, by the way.
Great. Okay, so I was going to bring this up to you. On Tuesday nights on Viceland, they have this series called Dark Side of the Ropes or Dark Side of the Ring, whatever. And they go back and like preview certain people's histories. Like they did a Miss Elizabeth, Randy Savage. They just did one on Chris. Yeah, they just did one on Chris Benoit. If you remember his story, it was very, very tragic, but you got the real insights of it. And they just did one on something WWE did years ago called the Brawl for All, where they wanted to take like their mid-card talent and have them actually like fight with boxing gloves in the ring to see who the toughest guy was. And it ended up going bad on them. Like they thought that like they because in wrestling it's all predetermined. Mm-hmm. They thought one guy was going to win, but this guy they didn't think was going to win knocked everybody out. And so WWE, who plans everything that they do, was like, shit, we didn't think this guy was going to win. So what they did was, all right, what can we do to like pump this guy up a little bit? They put him in the ring with Butterbean at a WrestleMania, and he gets his ass kicked in under 3 minutes, knocked out. I'm talking like knocked out. So that's how like they rewarded him by getting his ass kicked from Butterbean. My point is like these documentaries about these stories and wrestling, and like what I liked about that one was who's the toughest guy in the locker room. Like that's what they tried to do. Mm-hmm. And it's not everything that you think is the toughest guy, right? Whoever you think it is, it's never who you truly think. The final top 10, it is in regarding Kevin Garnett. He's getting his number retired, and you had some interesting ranks on, does he deserve his number to be retired? And then his rankings in points, he's 22nd in Celtics history, and in rebounds, he's 18th. So you compared his overall numbers as a Celtic to some other Celtics. So he averaged just under 16 points per game and just over 8 rebounds a game. You compared him to Bailey Howell and his 18 points a game and his 8 rebounds, and Dino Rogers 16 and 8. So if I'm looking at those numbers, holy shit, he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. At least get his number retired with. No, he should be a Hall of Famer. shouldn't get his number retired with the Celtics.
Yeah, I think ultimately he deserves, Bledsoe-like latitude. I think Garnett, when it's all said and done, was a B plus A minus player, and then did bring an attitude and was good for chemistry and the whole picking players up. And when someone shot after the whistle, blocking that and get that shit out of here and all that kind of stuff. But Garnett was a good player, and Garnett and Pierce is, I think, the most overrated player in Boston history.
Whoa.
And I think yes. Oh, let me dribble out the 24-second clock and take a follow-away jumper that clanks off the back. If you ask me, and Pierce had one unbelievable game that gets him in the rafters. It's Game 7 against Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I think it's sacrilegious, Joe, to even compare the big three of that generation to Bird, McHale, and Parrish. They won one championship. Steve DeBerg won a fucking championship. Like, don't even call them the big three. They're just three guys that got us a championship. Very appreciative. But, I just think that they were a nice team. I'm a huge Eddie House fan. I love them coming off the bench and the bench they had that year. But Garnett was a really, really good player. And really good players. How many games was he the best player on the court in an 82-game season? 7, 9, 10? Well, you'll get your number retired for 10 games. Ray Allen, I think Ray Allen had as much to do on the floor as Kevin Garnett. You're not retiring his number.
There you go. There's your next book.
And
that's it right there, man.
All right, and don't play pool with Paul Pierce, by the way.
I've been told that. I've been told. I've been told not to go down to. I actually know it's funny, Mike. I actually was talking about this. There's nowhere in the area to go anymore to play pool. Like, I go to like some hall in Brighton that's like, at a body shop. All right, I probably shouldn't go to, but like it's the only place I could go. So I don't know. Yeah, like playing pool with Paul Pierce downtown. But just sticking on that for a second here. Does Ray Allen show up? And just how do you feel about like this Rondo and this, just all the, like, even Doc's a part of it. Kendrick Perkins on NBC Sports Boston does the same thing. It's everybody versus Ray. Do you think that's it's like Ray's the heel, right? In the end, like, is this good for Ray to kind of keep himself distant from maybe that Celtic squad?
Nah, he deserves to be part of any of those celebrations. And you think about some of the great games. He had an overtime game. Didn't he throw in like 40 or 50 once in an overtime game against Cleveland, maybe?
I think at one point he broke the 3-point. I think Steph Curry beat it, but yeah, he broke the 3-point record against the Lakers in the finals once.
Yeah, this seems like there's something more than just going to another team. This seems like the vitriol on this is more than just going to Miami. I get it. I was pissed when he went there too, but ultimately, it's almost like something else is going on. But they're big boys. They're all worth $100 million. They can bury the hatchet and let Ray come back. They're all part of that. But fortunate for PS, he got rid of Antoine and got Ray Allen.
So not the big three, the four. Like the Four Horsemen, like what? Like, do you want to throw Ringo in the mix there? Like, I think there's a book in there somewhere.
Yeah, let's.
I don't know if it's.
How about the Three Wannabes?
Ooh, I feel like you could write a book about that.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just get like the beef between Rondo and Ray Allen and Ray Allen's story, and maybe Doc Rivers a little bit. Maybe Tom Thibodeau gets involved as the defensive coach. I don't know. There might be something there to for a book idea.
I guarantee I won't be this tough in front of Kevin Garnett.
That's true. Have you? Did
I haven't seen it. Nope, but I know Adam Sandler's still on the ledge, not getting nominated for the Oscar.
Yeah, I liked it. It was okay. It was okay. Garnett was very good, but he's playing himself. So I don't know how hard that was for him, but he was very good. Before we wrap up here, Mike. So obviously, I've been doing this with every guest. We're all stuck in quarantine, so I call it quarantine. Somebody just checking in. What's wrong with the weird pool hall with no signs upstairs from a body shop? There's nothing wrong at all. That's where I learned to play pool. There's the what's it called? The pool tables have a few bumps. It's kind of like the old garden floor. You got to know how to hit the ball into that area. But anyways, I've been having fun with a lot of people during quarantine, is what I call it. So what's like your go-to what's your go-to series? Are you reading books? Are you watching television? What are you doing at this point?
I'm doing everything. I watch way too much TV. Just finished Ozark. Man in the High Castle I loved. I love the little spin on history. I think Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
Me too. I love Better Call Saul.
I think it's as creative and well written and well acted, and the supporting actors are all unbelievable. I think it's the greatest prequel sequel of all time. History, better than Frasier, better than anything. I'm watching a ton of sports documentaries. I'm watching one. I just watched a good one on Amazon, the Russian 5 on the Detroit Red Wings. B+ if anyone's looking for something. So a ton of documentaries, ton of TV, trying to exercise a little bit and enjoying the opportunity to have time to reconnect with college friends, people like yourself, Joe. I'm telling you, I'm seeing this as opportunity, and I hope everyone sees it that way. It's we can change our worlds during this time.
Oh, absolutely, man. And like for me, right? Like that's why I'm like, all right, I got to go do something. I can't work, right? I'm at the radio station on Thursdays and Saturday mornings at 7, so nobody's on the road, nobody's at the station. I don't even know if anybody's listening, Mike. I don't, and I'm talking gambling. Imagine talking about gambling when there's no sports, nothing. So at this point, I'm looking at the draft, and I'm like, will Tua Tagovailoa go in the top 15? Do you want to bet on it, yes or no? Your thoughts on Tua by any chance before I let you go?
On who, Joe? Sorry.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, I think he was a generational talent, but I think he's damaged goods. I think that hip is Bo Jackson-esque, and I would not waste a first-round pick on him. I think you get a good year or two out of him. He's taken some big hits in Alabama. I would not. I would go Hurts in third round before I go Tua in first round.
Ooh. Wow. So I like Hurts. I think he could be a guy that you can bring into a game to be a game changer, and he has the speed. He can get to the outside like very fast. That's one ability that he has. And he did improve throwing last year. And I know it might have been the system here. The size is what bothers me about him. Not getting hurt on a sack or anything like that. Can he see the field? Right? I saw him have issues against Texas last year. They weren't a great defense, but they had some big bodies. They're going to see those type of bodies as well. But I like Hurts. I think he's a smart player. He made a few dumb passes last year, and I don't know if he was forcing things because, Oklahoma was in that mix of being in the top, the college playoff. But the kid's got some, like him and Fromm, I think, are two guys that have that competitive angle that I think you need to be at least a backup or have a chance to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah, the problem with Fromm is every time I watched him, they had to tell us he was in the Little League World Series.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear that every Sunday. The thing with Hurts, though, I think the turnovers late in the season move him from second round to third round, which is better for the Patriots. And I think for a comparison, I think he might be Russell Wilson-esque. So I bet very similar in size, mobility, maybe not the magic of Russell Wilson, but I think he's 92% of Russell Wilson.
Awesome. A couple more comments before we get out of here. Uncut Gems was the worst movie. By the way, Jimmy's going to win the book. He wants the Fenway 1940. I'll get his info and you can spend it. The spot has been the same forever. Lumpy tables. I know. Let's get off the pool table stuff. So Mike, Fenway 19. Obviously, you're not going to tell us what you're working on. But what are you brewing, man? Like obviously we can't do book tours right now.
I'm deep into a big research project on the Joe Murray story. It's a drama. You cry, you laugh. I think people are going to like it, Joe. It's It starts off with you walking up to the batter's box, and it ends with me crying. That's all I'm going to say.
Damn uppercut swing, man. I blame Mo Vaughn. I really do. And you know what's funny, Mike? So after like playing ball, I played ball until I don't know, like whether it was like the park, like everywhere. Like I kept on playing like the same guys, you know. I don't know if it was because it was like an opportunity to drink. I don't know if that's what it was. I played softball until like 2 years ago. I started pitching and took a few back to the head, and that was it for me, man. Like I'm like, all right, I'm too old for this. But yeah, I played ball for years. We were playing like football up until for years. I'm 38 now. I can't move like I used to. The weight was okay when you're in your 20s. Once it gets to your mid 30s, it's like, all right, Joe, 300 pounds. It's like, yeah, you gotta kind of have to watch yourself a little bit here. It just doesn't carry as well as it used to.
Big house more, brother.
That's right, man. All right, cool, Mike. I appreciate you joining, man. It was fun times. I'd love to have you back on. I want to continue to have everyone follow the Connelly Top 10. I got a suggestion for you: Tangent Tuesdays and Tangent Thursdays.
All right.
So because what is on Sundays you do the Connelly Top 10? Is that it?
So during the epidemic, I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the blog, and then Tuesday and Thursday I'm bringing back 2001 blogs that I did, and sort of interesting to go back. It's How to Kill Bin Laden.
Saw that.
Number two. Number one is Why Brady Over Bledsoe, and so I got some of that from 2001. So 5 days a week. If you want to friend me on Facebook, I'll be happy to friend you back, and I put it out there on that too. So
we got to get you on Twitter, man.
Yeah, well, I'm just in the 90s now, Joe. You're lucky they would set this up.
Dude, you got to get on Twitter because we can repost it, retweet it. Like you got to follow it. I told people you were coming on, and people were like, oh, the guy with the podcast about the other Michael Connelly. Like, doesn't that suck? Like, there's a Jim Murray, Joe Murray. That sucks. And I feel bad for Jim at times because he gets shit that I say, and the same thing for me. Like, there's another Michael Connelly out there, and it's like, well, what the hell? So what are you going to be like, Michael P. Connelly now? Is that what you're going to go by?
Joe, quick story. I still have 2 tangents to use up here out of my 10.
Yes.
So we're at the Army-Navy Gala, and I'm signing my book, The President's Team, which I was donating to a veterans cause. And a woman in a gown with cleavage falling out comes up to me. It's me, my wife, my son, and my parents, and she is gushing over me. Oh, let me get a picture with you. I got to have a picture. So I said, I'll take a picture with you. But after we take the picture, I'm going to tell you something. So we take the picture and she's all over me. And it's like, okay, I'm not that Michael Connelly. I'm the sports Michael Connelly, not the Lincoln lawyer Michael Connelly. Her shoulders dropped. Her head dropped. She wanted to take the hug back. She was devastated. So, yeah, well, Michael Connelly, if he ever hears this, he's owed a hug from someone that was well endowed.
I'm wondering if you guys have ever communicated. You guys must have crossed paths. Maybe you picked up an email of his one day or something to that degree. Have you guys never crossed paths?
No, but every once in a while on Amazon, you'll see, I like this book, but I want my money back. It's not that Michael Connelly. Thanks.
So again, before we let you go, I know most of you mentioned the Army Navy book. We got Rebound out there. I know we got you did the marathon book again. Fenway 1946. Anything else we're missing there? The Michael Connelly, the playbook, I guess we should call it.
Yeah, those 4 books are the primary ones. We did the one with Gresham, Boston Sports List, and one with Pat Williams, the president of the Orlando Magic. We did the NBA List Jam, which was 10 years ago. So those 6 books have kept me busy. And when I finish the Joe Murray book, maybe you can do the forward, Joe.
That's right. And
you can do the over-under on number of copies sold.
I don't know. I wonder if we went to some event and left it at the table. I bet you we can. I don't know. It's numbers sold is people might take it. I don't know if they'd actually buy it. Real quick, have you seen the documentary Screwball at all on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. See, I like the way that was done with the little kids. I thought it was you hated it?
I hated it. I hate I'm a documentary junkie. I hate any kind of reenactments, any kind of artwork and sketches. A great documentary has has footage and interviews. If you're looking for a good documentary on something we would never watch, Senna, Senna, on the Formula One driver, there was no narrator. They just connected it by all the footage and all the interviews. It was unbelievable. So I hated the way they did it, but that documentary tells you when you found out that Major League Baseball was giving cash.
Rob Manfred, you mean?
For the Notebook, that tells you what they're doing with Cora behind the scenes. There's some dirty business going on.
Rob Manfred was the one that was giving cash. The commissioner of baseball, who wasn't at the time, but that guy, that's the guy that was doing the cash.
Yeah, like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction at the diner. It's like, are you kidding me?
That's bad motherfucking wallet. That's my wallet in there.
Yeah. And speak of my last tangent, Jackson got screwed with Travolta getting the nomination on Best Supporting Actor over him. Samuel L. Jackson should have filed a complaint on that one.
That whole 1994, I think it was Shawshank that year. There was a bunch of movies up for nomination that year. When I look back, so 1994 is like, for me, I'm 12 years old, but like Nirvana was like the biggest thing Kurt Cobain passed that year, and like music was huge. Green Day was huge. There was this grunge era rap music was really big. Like 1994, my wheelhouse. Now I think Phil Plantier might have been on the Red Sox then, and Scott Cooper might have been an all-star third base. I don't remember, but like 1994, Mike, that's like my wheelhouse when I think of like anything in the world. So
Joe,
of course, yeah.
Come on. If you want to talk rap music, we got Sugar Hill Gang and Curtis Blow and Run DMC. You guys were just copying all our shit.
Oh, well, yeah, Dr. Dre was sampling. There's no doubt. Eminem, he came along and I think fucked everybody up. Like he came in and then all the kids were like, shit, let's try this. Let's color our hair. Let's do all this stuff. And then it just all went.
Yeah. We'll next podcast we'll go 80s rap versus 90s music.
We could do that. He's Michael Connelly, Amazon, Michael P. Connelly, for those who are out there, and we'll get that book out to Jimmy who checked in today. Mike, so are you gonna, when this whole quarantine ends, you still gonna coach? You still gonna coach for High Par? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, the over-under on wins this year for High Park Legion is 17, Joe, out of 20 games. So I'd go over.
Where do you guys play at Kelly or Mackett? Where are you guys playing?
Whoa! Yeah,
that's like for the High Park kids. That's like playing almost at Fenway.
It's the High Park kids come in with their Chevrolets as the butlers are taking all the students out in their Mercedes.
Shit, I had to play it like. We used to practice at like Meg's Field at one point. Like, all right, now you can come over to McIntosh or Kelly. And we had to play on the football field once. It was that bad. But he is Michael Connelly, the world famous top 10 list as well. And check out his Fenway 1946 book. I will tell you this, on YouTube, you can actually watch the 1946 World Series without any narration. And I watched the Mad Dash last night because I want to see what Pesky did. And I wanted to how much shit he got after that. But I wanted to just see it with my own eyes. Like, was it the throw from center or was it Pesky? And I think it was a little bit of both. Yeah.
It was a perfect storm. No one scores from first on a single to left center unless it's a perfect storm. They call it a double, but it was a single.
It's right. It went in the book. I read that as well. It went in there as a single. All right, he is Michael Connelly, and I'll put up this one more time so everybody can see it. His books, 26 Miles to Boston, Fenway. Don't forget Rebound for all you basketball fans out there, and college football fans with the Army Navy as well. And the great book of Boston Sports Lists, which one of my favorite is Fattest Sports Athlete or Most Overweight Sports Athlete. Mine was Tommy Hamilton of the Celtics years ago, number 30. He was a great post player, great preseason, and Michael Sweetney as well was another on that list. So, Mike, appreciate it, man. It's good catching up. I'll be following week in and week out, and I will send this along to everybody I'll email you the interview as well, and you can tell all the masses that you were on Joe Murray's podcast, and this thing will be the highest rated podcast we've ever had.
I'm checking it off of my bucket list, Joe.
All right, Mike, we'll do this again, man. I really appreciate your time today.
All right, thanks, Joe. It was great.
You got it, Mike. Take care, man. Good luck with the quarantine and the family and everything to that degree. All right, he is Michael Connelly. Thank him very much for taking a few minutes. We go way back. He was my high school baseball coach, and then I found out that he's like this author and writes for the Herald, and I'm like, shit. And the guy just keeps going. He keeps making books and writing books. And when I started this podcast, I'm like, I gotta get him on here. We gotta shoot the shit. We gotta talk. We gotta catch up. But his stuff, when it comes to the randomosity and like the old stats that he has, is like out of control. Like I look at it and I'm like, how is this dude thinking about this stuff? But I thought it'd be good to kind of bring up his top 10 and have a discussion with it. I thought the Brady, who would be more successful, Brady Belichick, that's going to be something that goes on. He mentioned some stuff on Edelman, like in just that position in general. Like that's something we're probably going to look back on and be like, damn, a lot of those receivers that Brady threw to, maybe who knows how long they're going to be around, but that's one thing to look into. The Kevin Garnett thing will always be interesting. Just that whole entire big three, and then you throw Rhonda Perk into the mix. The Ray Allen thing will always be there. Next year when Kevin Garnett gets inducted into the Hall of Fame and he gets his number retired, I still am curious if Ray Allen will show up. Like, will they finally mend their differences? I in a way, I kind of hope that Ray Allen just continues to be a heel. Like, I hope he holds out on and just fuck you guys. I want to reach him somewhere else. You guys can continue to hate. You can continue to hate. They all put it on Ray though, which I think was very funny. We did over 90 minutes today. It's our longest podcast, so I'll save some stuff for tomorrow. The horse tournament, though, woof. Would you rather watch Joe Murray eat jelly beans or watch the horse tournament? That's something very interesting. Also, Tiger King had an 8th episode. I thought it really sucked. I got nothing out of it whatsoever. So I'm like kind of done with the memes. And one last thing before we get out of here. Major League Baseball is trying everything to get their season going. Like everything. Now they're even considering playing in Japan? Serious? Like, oh, let's go play baseball in Japan. They're just trying to keep their name in the news to make themselves interesting, is what I think. Anyways, we're getting out of here today. It's been a re-entry Monday, as they like to say in the business. I'm Joe Murray. I do want to thank Michael Connelly. It was a lot of fun. We went way back. I'll post this. You'll see it on Facebook. You'll see it on Twitter and Periscope as well. And I'm trying to get everything on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and all that shit. But, I have to do it on my own. I don't have like people who can do it for me anymore. So it sucks. But anyways, again, go check out Michael Connelly, his books. Great stuff there. Of course, if you're from the area as well, he's a local dude. So it's good to see his stuff. People are saying they'd rather watch me do the jelly beans. So maybe I'll just bring out whatever, because right now is the time, people. If you want to go get that candy and you get that sugar itch, CVS, all that stuff, it's on sale today. They couldn't get rid of that stuff. Today's the day to go out and buy it. All right. I'm Joe Murray, just sitting here. We'll be back tomorrow. My guest, the Sarge, Mike Riley from 98.5 The Sports. I'm also the PA announcer of the New England Revolution and the New England Revs and the Patriots at times as well. So I'm Joe Murray, just sitting there. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.